Following the release of Insomniac's first ever game known as Disruptor in late 1996, the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. While Disruptor was a critical success, it greatly underperformed in terms of sales due to its lack of marketing, according to the company's founder Ted Price. The team's morale at this point was at an all-time low, but despite all that failed, what they would create next alongside with Universal Interactive would become a massive hit. And that was Spyro the Dragon, a legendary classic of the original PlayStation console. Insomniac recognized that the demography for PlayStation consisted largely of children to teenagers, so instead of making a sequel to the violent and mature Disruptor, they shifted their target audience to a wider range by creating something more family-friendly. Super Mario 64 was a big inspiration in the development of Spyro, and it's incredible to see the accomplishments that came with this one decision, as well as the other lessons they learned from their first project. Mark Kearney, producer of Universal, pushed the development team to create a game with a mascot of mass appeal, and it was Craig Stitt, who previously worked on the environment art of the last game, suggested the idea of an anthropomorphic dragon. While this was all happening, Alex Hastings was developing an engine that specialized in a panoramic view and open world environments. It was on the 9th of September 1998 we saw the game's release, and it received both critical acclaim and a total of 5 million sales by the end of its lifetime. Hello and welcome to a new video. I'm Vanguard, and today we'll be going through my retrospective review on Spyro the Dragon. Spyro the Dragon puts you in the control of the iconic purple dragon. Its world, exploration, replay value, graphics and art style were all worthy of great praise for creating such a setting brimming with personality, especially for its time. The game begins in a place known as the Artisans, in the Dragon Realm, a world filled with high biodiversity of many different creatures, ornate structures and gems. During the opening intro, we are introduced to a cast of different dragons, who are currently filming a video documentary about the world. But it seems that Insomniac, who was banished from the Dragon Realms a long time ago, was somehow watching this footage and overheard what was said about him. Angered by the disrespect, he unleashes a powerful spell upon all the dragons, freezing them in place as crystal statues for all but one, Spyro the Dragon. This was mainly because of Spyro's youth and small size that caused the villain to miss. You as the player are thrown straight into the world as Spyro, on a quest to free everyone in all of the different realms, fighting against many adversities along the way, and putting an end to Insomniac's schemes. While the plot is nothing special by today's standards, or even at the time of the release at all, this game served as a great transition into the world of gaming for many kids and teenagers such as myself back in the day. Back then, classics such as the Final Fantasy series, Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider and so many more were deeply prevalent on the PlayStation 1 console. They were some of the greatest games. However, me being so young back then, I couldn't exactly wrap my head around what those games had to offer in its entirety. Spyro served as one of my earliest and most accessible experiences into the medium of video games, as in its introduction, it very clearly conveyed its overall story, very much recreating the atmosphere of cartoons on TV. The game is certainly charming, expressive and endearing in this regards, and I could easily capture what was going on, as the protagonist, villain, some supporting characters and goal were all identified in the first 2 minutes. The plot was simple, maybe even a little too much so, but it served its purpose well. Because of this, the game puts far more attention on its setting and design. What many people and myself found to be so lovely about Spyro the Dragon was its world. You'd meet a total of 80 dragons by the end of the game, all with dialogue surprisingly when interacting with them, though some dragons may repeat their lines and share a lot of the same voice actors. They had varying looks, but individually they were pretty irrelevant to the overall experience. There would be many enemies you would come across, almost 80 in fact, all with distinguishable designs, physical personalities and characteristics. And there were a total of 6 open home worlds, all divided into 3 realms, also featuring a boss and flight level, excluding the last one for the flying segment, with a particular and memorable geographical theme for each location. The soundtrack was awesome to listen to. It was appropriately funky and full of energy, really adding to the exploration experience. What Insomniac created was an inviting world, filled with vibrant life. It looked fantastic for its time, with the use of lighting, colours and light-hearted goofy animations. And the series only improved from this game. In all honesty, I wasn't bothered by how it looks today, unlike some games on the PS1. In creating such a world, exploration makes this game one of its greatest appeal. As Spyro soon became an iconic mascot for the PlayStation way back when, he was often compared to Crash Bandicoot for their obvious popularity and similar target audience age. But I always felt that, rather than competing against each other, they complemented one another. because gameplay wise they represented two concepts, one being more linear and hallway-like, while the other more explorative and open, though by today's standards not so much. And there's certainly a great contrast in challenge too, with Spyro being a little too easy upon revisiting it. Neither are more superior than the other in relations to concept. Me being a kid back then, I vastly preferred Spyro because of how much creative freedom you had, and cause I could actually make reasonable progress for its easier platforming. The level design, variety of enemies, collection of all the gems and tools you had made a truly fun experience. By today's standards, however, it hasn't aged the best. There's a lot of repetition of how each level feels over time, feeling a little plain. And it's rather short too, only around 5 hours of playtime, far less than I remembered it being, though that's probably for the better, since you really can't do a ton with Spyro. As Spyro you can jump, glide, shoot fire and charge, as well as side roll, which doesn't have much use and was later removed in its sequel. The controls are fairly smooth, however the camera can be slightly clunky at times. There's also flying segments, giving the game a break to breathe from the heart of its gameplay, which really were memorable as a kid, and it blew me away from how much space and freedom you appeared to have. There's also Super Flames, a power-up you can use temporarily that upgrades your normal fire. Supercharge, a special move accessible by entering through boost ramps to access higher speeds and areas. And the Dragon Eggs, collectibles obtained by chasing the speedy egg thieves. I think the game could have done with more variety in abilities, movesets and objectives to avoid the formulaic nature of the overall level design. For the vast majority of the game you were charging around constantly and obtaining all the gems, which was something they largely improved in the future installments. Due to the success of this game, it spawned two more titles in the original PlayStation Insomniac Trilogy, known as Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon, which were all greatly successful critically and commercially, selling over 12 million copies altogether. It's amazing in retrospect when looking back, the company almost went bankrupt after their initial project. It was however announced afterwards they would no longer be making Spyro games and moved on to creating other popular IPs like the Ratchet & Clank series on the PlayStation 2. Today the franchise's rights are currently being held by Activision, and the remastered version of all the three original games, similar to the Insane Trilogy developed by Toys for Bob, will be released for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in September 21st, 2018, titled Spyro Reignited Trilogy. I loved the original Spyro the Dragon for its vibrant open world and exploration. Upon revisiting it, I was filled with nostalgia. Although the later games immensely improved the weaknesses of this title, adding more abilities, stories, objectives, verticality in levels, enemy types and etc., this was the humble beginnings of where the series and Insomniac began. It brought me into the world of gaming. Though there isn't too much point in playing this now outside of nostalgic reasons, because of its immensely easy progression, simplistic story, small world, repetitive nature and dated graphics, you can still recognize in the eyes of today what made this game a classic on the PlayStation 1. I'm very happy and excited for the Reignited Trilogy. It looks incredible from what I've seen, and I couldn't be happier with how beautiful it looks. And I think purchasing that, after seeing what Activision and Toys for Bob did with Crash Bandicoot last year, will be a great investment, especially for kids getting into video games today. Even several years later, from time to time, I would replay this game on my PS2 since it supported backwards compatibility, which is a testament to how good it was. I hope the Spyro Remastered Trilogy can give the new generation of gamers the same journey I had as a little boy once upon a time. Well, that about wraps up this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. Thank you all for watching, until next time, I'll see you later.